Good evening. Welcome to a new food4Rhino webinar. Today we are presenting Panther. This is a new jewelry application with a very novel concept as it runs not only on top of Rhino, but also on top of Grasshopper. And I want to thank here to Pedro Loureiro, product manager, and Enric del Molino, main programmer. They will start with a presentation about the company, then they will show some case studies, and then the main part of the webinar is a live demo so that you can see all the features of Panther. And at the end, there will be time for questions and feedback. Feel free to use the chat during the webinar. We won't be able to answer all the questions directly during the webinar, but I'm collecting them. And at the end, when they finish, as I said, I will pass all the questions to Pedro and Enric. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so if you miss any part of it, right after it finishes, it will be available on the food4Rhino playlist on the McNeel Europe YouTube channel. So, Pedro, Enric, thanks for being here, and if you want, you can start now with your presentation.
Okay. So thanks to you, Carlos, for inviting us, and thank you to all viewers to take a look to Panther. I'm going to explain what is Panther, what we can do with Panther, and in general the tools and the things that you can do with that. So let me start the presentation. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, well, Panther actually is a plugin for Rhino and Grasshopper, but we are mainly focusing in the Rhino part. So we are located in Barcelona, but we have some resellers all over the world. Okay, but we are located here in Barcelona, in Spain. So Panther has some tools think specifically for beginner users, like a lot of ring builders or any other jewelry builders. These kind of builders are in a kind of sense more generic, but we also have another tools more specific, so in this case for stone settings, for instance, where we can cover almost all the things, the typical things that are made in jewelry. So Panther is a parametric program, so you can make any design, you can modify some things and keep all the history updated. So you don't have to take care about that. So Panther is doing that while you are designing. And furthermore, we have the Grasshopper integration. So we have all the tools we have in Rhino. We have exactly the same tools in Grasshopper. So the expert users or the people who know about Grasshopper and want to play can make any design in Grasshopper. So they will find exactly the same tools. Okay. So now I'm going to show some designs of our users. Okay, so some examples about what you can do with Panther. Okay, this is from the reseller from Portugal, Joao. This is the last tool that we made with the pavé. And of course, you can use the integrated render inside Rhino, which is cycles. So we provide a full library of materials, and you only have to switch the display mode to cycles, and the render will be done automatically. So now I'm going to pass the word to Pedro, and he's going to make some real stuff.
Thank you, Enric. I think you can now see my screen. Also, I want to thank Carlos and food4Rhino for inviting us today, as well as all the attendees for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to be able to show all the news I hope you can see my screen now. And remember, you can use the chat to make any questions you might have. We will today focus this session on showing many of the tools we have been working on, and I really believe it can be really interesting to take a look on the different possibilities we have. I'm going to start then with under the jewelry tab, we will start with the charm tool, and in here I'm going to look for a pear shape. Remember, always you can add your own shapes. In this case, just under each builder, you have the option to add your own curves or whatever the builder is asking, so you can customize exactly how you need it. So at this point, I'm going to adjust the size exactly as I want. So let's say that in here, I'm looking for a pear shape around 25 millimeters. We can, in here, in the side panel, as you can see, you can adjust. In this case, I remove the proportional. I'm looking for a good proportion, maybe 18 width, and the thickness, let's say 5.5 should be a good thickness. Remember, we can always come back and edit. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move to the next step. I want to show many different tools. There are many nice features. So I'm going to divide, I'm going to use this option, the planar cutters. So I just need to select the object to cut and as well as define the cutter axis. In this case, the default axis, the Z, it's perfect. So once I have my cutter, I can go to the Boolean. In this case, I'm looking for the Boolean split. So I'm going to select my object and I'm going to cut with the, in this case, with my cutter. So as you can see now, we split in two parts. The idea in here is to work differently on the top and on the back. As I mentioned before, we have nice features to mention, and I really want to take advantage to show all this. So I'm going to hide this one, the bottom part. We will come back to it later. And I'm going to start here with the top part. The first thing I want to mention is that you can see here from the back, we have a solid part. I'm going to try to hollow it. There are many different options. Probably a shell from Rhino, it's already a nice one to hollow out this part. But I'm going to use a different one just to show you that we have other ways to keep the history. You can see here on the side panel, we will be able to take advantage of the history. Of course, we can choose if, for instance, if you use the Rhino shell, remember that many of the Rhino tools, even you have the Rhino history, some of the tools will break the history. So it's something that I really, in this case, I think it's good to show you the advantage of keeping the history of the model. What I'm going to do just to hollow it, it's just to define a same shape, but with a different measurement. So a little bit smaller. In this case, I'm going to use 2 millimeters smaller. So I will leave 1 millimeter for each side, as well as the width. So if we leave, for instance, 16, if I remember well, we have used 18, we are leaving 1 millimeter thickness, and I can do the same also here on the top. So one of the advantages of doing this is that we can set different thickness from the wall or from the top. So this is one possibility that we can explore. You can see here I'm setting 1 millimeter for all the different walls. At this point, this is just a cutting object. So I'm going back to shade it, and what I'm going to do in here is the Boolean difference. So I'm going to remove from the first object the inner one, and as you can see, this is the result. We hollow out this part, And in here, the advantage, as I mentioned before, is that you can come back to it any moment. And let's say that you want to change this thickness or any other thickness. This allows you to go back to addition. In this case, for instance, we can edit the cutting object, and you will see that, for instance, if I adjust here the width, you will see that we can readjust individually any of these options. So at this point, I'm going to move on. One thing that I also want to bring back in the original charm, I'm going to edit. You can any moment come back to addition. We have one option in here, which is the curve. We can get this profile curve, the one we used, this one. So what I'm going to do with this curve, I'm going to create, in this case, I'm going to use the offset M curve, which will allow us to create the horizontal offset. So we can maybe use, let's say, 5 millimeters should be okay. And this curve, once again, I could use the offset from Rhino, of course. Just remember that we can also keep the history, and this will have other advantages. So I'm going to keep going. I can maybe at this point, let me bring back this Boolean, and sorry, I think it's this one. And actually, with this one, I think some point in here, I want to make the back part. So let me just confirm. I think I hide this one, otherwise I can just bring back again. And it will be easier to do this step again. So I'm going to just to work on the back part. The idea is that sometimes we want to create a different height on the back. So what I'm going to do is just to keep the same measurements and define a different height in here. Let's say what I want to use in this case is a different thickness for the under gallery. So let's keep exactly the same proportions for this one. And the height, we have used it 5, so now I'm going to use something way smaller. So we can do something like this. So I'm defining maybe 2.5 sounds a good one. And the idea is to use one for the top, other for the bottom. So once again, I'm just going to repeat this step of the cutter, which will allow me to work independently the front from the back. So once again, I select the cutter, and what I want to do here on this back part is one of the new tools we have added, the auto squish. And I want to mention that this one, the main advantage is that you can see the topology of the surface. In this case, it's not probably a good one to use a UV pattern. So the auto squish will follow the direction, won't follow the U or V directions of the surface. You can of course adjust, for instance, the number of copies. Let's say that I want a little bit more in here, as well as we have the selector for all the different patterns. And as we mentioned before, we can always add our own. And I'm going also to enable the solid option. So we want to create in here a solid. We can also export in curves if we want to apply, let's say, a mill grain or something like that. But in this case, with a solid, as you can see, let me change here the display mode. We can get the pattern, and of course, we will be able to come back and change to any other we want any moment. So what I'm going to do is just to move on from here. Let me hide this one. And now I will come back to the front part. We have defined the back part. And in here, I'm going just to apply maybe a white gold for the front. And in the back, we already have defined the under gallery. So for this step, I'm going back to cutters. I'm going to use the Autocut to create here. We have this curve, the offset curve we have created before, and the object we want to cut, in this case, this one, as you can see, is where I want to create this cutter. So I'm going to start working on this front part. We have many different things that I really think it's very, very nice to cover today. I'm going to maybe defining here under the jewelry, we can add the bail. So in here, I'm going to define the pendant bail. Maybe under placement, we can already pick the position. Let's say here with the grid snap, we can exactly make sure we will place it accordingly. And remember, we can always come back to addition here on the side panel, and we will be able to edit, readjust. Maybe we will place some gems here on the bail. So we will come back and work a little bit more on this. At this point, so we have the main structure of the pendant, and I'm going to start talking about all the details we want to cover. I want to show you the pavé tool. We have created a very nice pavé tool, and before going to that, maybe I can use here I'm going to create a pipe. I will select this, and actually I'm going to do with the option of chain curve. So we will select both this, and the diameter here in the command line, we can set diameter. Actually, it's too big. Let me set the proper diameter. I think it's 0.6, what I was looking for, 0.6, enter. And now it's exactly what we were looking for. So as I was saying, now I want to show you the pavé tool. We have under the gems, the pavé, I'm going to fill all this area with gems. So we can select the pavé. Let me just, we have here all the different options, gem size, number of gems. The first thing we need to select is where we want to apply the gems. In this case, as you can see, we select this top surface, and we can adjust all these parameters we were talking about, like the space between gems, the margin, all these options you can see in here. We can already see the margin distance, the distance between gems, and the number of gems, all that we want to control. We can set, for instance, in here, let's say that we want to use maximum gem size. We have in here maybe from 1.5 to 1.3, and we want to use these sizes, and then we can start to add more gems. As you can see, I'm adding in here the gems. It will always try to fill the area, and we will need to, in this case, I'm not sure yet how many gems we will need, so I'm adding, as you can see, with all the different sizes. I can enable here show gem sizes. You will be able to control exactly the gems, and there will be a moment that, of course, we also want to give you all the manual adjustments, so we can start to use those. At this point, I still need a couple more gems. We can then resize gems, adjust positions, and so on. But you can see now we are trying to fill all this area. At this point, I am with 140 gems. So let's see, it's always calculating with the different positions, and we have here on the bottom the mouse move. In here, we will be able to control the individually in each gem. By default, you will see that you can move the gems, drag, but in this case, maybe what I want to do is these areas where I can maybe try to fill, I can adjust with, we have here the option to resize gems. We can maybe adjusting here, resize to 1.3, maybe this one, we just click and maybe we can try to add another one with 1.3 and maybe resize some of these surrounding gems, who knows, maybe this one, to try to fill this area. Always remember to you know, to try to adjust this when we add too many gems. We want to make sure they are not touching each other. So we'll have here all the manual resources to move, to delete, to lock. So in this case, I'm going to resize. I just select the new size and I click on the gem I want to resize, or I want to move, or I want to lock any position. So you can see that we start having here all the gems organized exactly as we want. So we can always try to add, if you need to add manually one more gem, let's say in the bottom row, let's try to add one in here. You can see it will try to fill, or you can even delete, resize. All this is possible to adjust, so we can really make the pavé exactly as we want. Let me work a little bit more on the resize some of the gems. We are here in the bottom, in the top. It looks good. We can always come back to addition. For instance, I like to add some prongs and then come back to the pavé adjustment to make sure everything is good. So maybe in here, I will resize these bottom ones and try to find room for all these gems. In here, maybe we can try to increase the size for this one. Let's see how it comes. But it looks, in general, looks good. As I was saying, we can always come back and readjust. In here, maybe they are too close, so I'm resizing maybe this one. Let's see how it comes. See, it will find room with all these gems. But as I was saying, I'm going now to move to the prongs, and if we need to come back to addition, we can come back. But this is the main idea of the pavé. It will recognize both or a NURB surface or a mesh surface, and as you can see, with this kind of results. Once we have the gems, my next step will be, let me just change here to shaded. My next step will be to place the prongs. Under the gem settings, we have the pavé prongs. So in here, we will need to select the pavé gems. So this is the group of gems. And it will recalculate all the prongs positions. And once again, we will be able to adjust all these details. So by default, we have a lot of options like the height, the diameter, the margin distance, the tolerance between prongs. So we have many adjustments. This is just the defaults. Maybe I can here reduce the overall height, and also let's say that I want, it's computing here all the prongs height, and the diameter looks good, but once again we may need, and actually it's quite recommendable to adjust, to make sure, for instance, generically they are in a good position, but we want to make sure, maybe if we want, for instance, to resize or to adjust here some of the prongs. So as you can see, it's quite easy once again to resize, delete, add, move. We can always try to adjust better. So maybe we can here delete this one, can adjust this position. But as you can see, most part of them will probably just need a small adjustment. Also, depending on of course, each tone setter has its own preferences, so it's always good to have all these options to make sure we will be able to do it exactly as we want. I think in general looks good, but once again, we want to make sure we can readjust all these positions. And I think in here, maybe we can add one more prong. We can add another one in here, or maybe two in this case. We can reduce the size if we want to add one more or increase. So this is completely your choice to define how you want the pavé. Okay, in this case, it's maybe I don't like to have just one prong for all these gems. Maybe we can divide, and this kind of details is quite easy. As you can see, it looks quite good. Maybe in here we have one more prong we don't need. Actually, just delete. And maybe we can move this one. But this is the idea. It looks good already. I'm going to move on from here. And there is also I want to mention. Let me also mention that we want to show you the Azure cutters, and it will be interesting to show with a pavé. Let me just make sure this is as I want. Let me maybe change to rendered. At this point, we have the gems, the prongs, but I still want to work a little bit on this. We need to make this the pilot holes, and I want to work on this back part. At this point, this is a solid. So what we are going to do at this point, you see that the main structure is ready, but I still want to add a couple of details. I'm going now to the cutters again, and I'm going to select the Azure cutters. Let's go back here to Panther display mode. So the Azure cutters, we will need to select the gems, and we will need to select, it will work on the gems as well as on the object. So the group of gems, the pavé gems, and then the object, we will need to make sure to select, we are looking for the back part, in this case where we want the Azure to go. This back surface, and I'm going to use the default options. Of course, we can adjust the parameters for the Azure, but at this point is computing, I think what around 150 gems. There are a lot of cutters going on. You can see here in the bottom, it's processing. So we are computing all the Azure. Okay, as you can see, let me just maybe hide this part just to show you what we have in here. You see, we have created the cutters. Of course, we will need to make the Boolean operation to keep going, but of course, also we have the different parameters to define the margin distance, the wall mark, this cell distance between each cutter. So this is everything customizable. But what we are doing in here is it's to work on this back part. We can remove weight from the piece as well as create a nice design. So all these cutters, I'm going to make this Boolean operation. Let's remove the cutters from this piece. So the first thing is the pendant, and the second one will be the Azure cutters. So it can take a little bit to calculate this Boolean. Remember, as many more objects you use, it will be computing all these in this case maybe 150 cutters. So it can take a little bit, but let's see the result. After all, we create these cutters to remove them. So as you can see in here, the Boolean failed. Let's try with I was trying with the Rhino Boolean. Let's use here instead the Boolean difference from Panther. Actually, the main advantage is this one will keep the history. Probably it can take a little bit more to compute, but let's select the object and let's select the cutters to remove. So in this case, I will select the group of Azure cutters, and it's computing the Boolean difference. Okay, let's wait a little bit, but this is the main idea. I still have a couple of other details that I think it's interesting to show you. Maybe we can place some gems here on the bale, see all these different possibilities. But at this point, we need to compute the Boolean. So let's just wait for it. And you are welcome to make any questions you have on the chat. We have a good part of this session we have reserved for the Q&A, so you are very welcome to let us know what you think, and we will try to explain as much as we can. We are not far to finish this piece. As you can see, we have here a nice pendant, but there are still some details interesting to show you. But let's wait a little bit just to finish the Boolean operation. Also, probably we can change here the pattern in the back. We can also come back to addition and readjust this one and change the pattern or even the size. That's the main advantage of working with the history, is that allow you to come back and readjust these details or define variations of the same part.
Wonderful. Actually, sorry to interrupt you, Pedro,
Yes.
but as there are so many people asking for parametrics, and if the Azure thickness of the wall can be modified, some people ask if you are going to show a ring to show the parametrics. So I think they are asking if it's parametric. I'm answering that yes, because Grasshopper is behind.
Yeah.
But maybe if you can do some modification to show that, it would be great.
Yeah, actually, it's a very, very good point. That's also the way I built this model, is exactly to keep the parametric history. So as I was saying in the beginning, we can build specifically the models to keep with the history, and the main advantage is exactly that. If we manage to keep the history on the model in here, you can see we have the Boolean ready. So we have calculated here all the Azure. But the main advantage is exactly to readjust any of the parameters we have here, all the different options, we can readjust. One thing it's important to mention, and when you have a model like this, where is somehow, let's say we have 150 gems, we have the same number of cutters. So all these operations that we have done since we start the model, whenever we recalculate, it will recalculate again. All these Boolean operations, all these gems positions, the prongs positions. So what will happen on a complex model is that it will take a while to recalculate. And when it's a simple model, it's quite straightforward. So let me hide here the.
Also, another recurring question is because people are asking for the requirements, so for the system requirements, I already pasted a link to your website where you talk about the minimum system requirements, but as the Pave is so fast, they want to know what are the specs of your computer, how much RAM, what's your processor, etc.
Well, so I will answer that. Okay. So any computer is okay. Actually, the minimum specs is, in general terms, a computer of $700, more or less. The only thing that is important is the graphics card for the render. So if you want to make a fast render, you will have to invest in a good graphics card. But this is the only one. So the PAVE, it should be fast in almost any computer.
And which are you using the Rhino inbuilt render, right? Or
Sorry?
cycles?
Yes, correct.
It's the Rhino inbuilt render, or it's cycles?
It's cycles. Cycles. It's integrated in the ray traced display mode. Okay. So we are using the render engine already integrated with Rhino. Actually, our main work is in the library of all the different jewelry materials, but it just already integrated with Rhino itself. So okay. That's it. Cycles.
And as cycles will be completed in Rhino 7, I mean, there is one part in Rhino 6, but in Rhino 7 it will be completed also with physically based rendering materials. Does Panther work also today on Rhino 7?
Yes, today we are having a lot of fun inside here in the office with Rhino 7, but we didn't release anything publicly, okay. just because we will do it only when McNeel makes the public announcement and the public release. We until there we are still working on internally, but not publicly.
Not public. Okay. Well, I recommend you, as we are already in a beta phase, that maybe it's time also to your users to make the Rhino 7 compatible version available, so they can try it already. In theory, any plugin for Rhino 6 should work on Rhino 7.
Yes.
So, but there might be some glitches. It's always good to try it before.
Exactly. We didn't release yet because we want also we are integrating all the new features of Rhino 7. Like you mentioned, the cycles integration, it's much better in version 7. The sub-D, it's also amazing. So all these features and news from the new Rhino 7 is something we are really taking in a quite we have attention to that, because we are preparing our next version for it. So it's not going to take long. We are really looking forward.
I guess it's because not only because when we release Rhino 7, there will be even new things in Panther, right? Because, for example, cycles will be better, so the visualization and the materials will be better in Panther for Rhino 7, I guess.
Exactly.
Right? And as people insist, they want to know what are your exact system specifications. So how much RAM do you have?
In this computer, I'm using 16 RAM. This is a laptop. This
16 gigabytes RAM, okay.
16 gigabytes.
Processor?
Processor, it's a i7. I don't know exactly. Maybe Enric will know exactly which one. It's i7.
Intel i7.
It's an i7. I don't remember the model. I think that it's a Q7700 or something like that.
Okay. And the graphic card, which graphic card are you using?
I'm using the RTX 2060. It's still not the new generation they just released that are still more powerful. And also important to mention that if you are using a desktop, even the same graphic card will have a better performance on desktop. I'm running a laptop.
A desktop computer or a laptop? It's a laptop.
This is a laptop, yes.
Okay. And how much did it cost, the laptop, so that people?
Actually, this one was around 1,400, okay. And it's already about one year old. So I would say that now for that same price, you will get much better machine.
So for 1,200, 1,500 euros, you have the right computer to run Panther.
So the point,
or less, but
yeah. So this computer is so expensive because the graphics card. So you can get exactly this computer without this graphics card, which probably it's around 800 more or less. And the performance will be the same, but the unique difference is when the user tries to make a render, it will be very, very low. But the performance of the program will be the same.
Yes, mainly the graphic card will affect the render. It won't affect the computation, and the Boolean go faster. It won't affect the graphic card, that kind of things. It's just more visualization.
Exactly. People need to know that the graphic card just affects the visualization. Actually, it doesn't affect a render when you push render button and it starts doing a normal render. Also, this doesn't depend on the graphic card, because many people are confused with that, or with the time, with the processing time for Booleans or other geometrical operations. And is there a Mac version, or is it planned?
I think Enric can help in here.
Yeah, there is no Mac version, and actually there is no plan to do it. Okay. Nowadays you can make it work with only with Bootcamp, parallels, and other kind of visualization. It works, but it's giving some problems, so we wouldn't recommend it. The Grasshopper part maybe will be in Mac, but there is no anything sure at the moment.
No, it's fine. It's just to clarify that, because people are also asking.
Yeah.
So are you going to show anything else, or should we go to the whole list of questions?
I am just, this is almost finished. I'm just to be showing something while we are live. I'm keep modeling this, putting some gems here on the bale, but you can start with the questions, and we can just, because this is finished more or less, it's just putting here the cutter, and after this, I think this is just normal routine. I think not the main features we wanted to cover. So you are welcome to start.
Perfect. So many thanks. I think it's a great product with a lot of potential, and I love that it's parametric thanks to Grasshopper. The Pavé tool is amazing. Also, many people said this. It was very active, the chat. Well, hello from many parts of the world, from Netherlands, Poland, Brazil, US, France, Venezuela. Well, many.
Thank you so much, all the attendees. Really, Germany. We really appreciate.
Also, people we know like Philippe Pillar, Andreas Moss, etc. Some of them I know they are reselling your software and offering training in their respective countries.
Correct.
And people ask for the price of Panther. Don't worry to answer here, because I already put the link to your website, so they can find the price on your website. But it's around 2,500 euros, right? The full version, the professional full version.
Yes.
And then you also have a light version. And on your website, you can see the differences, right?
Correct. Actually, I think it's a good point, because I'm going actually to show you exactly that. I think is in here. I think you can see now my screen. So also to mention that we have the free 30 days trial. You are very welcome to try the software by yourself, even before purchasing. Also, you can count with online learning resources. So it's really something we recommend, as well as the price. So as you were mentioning, we have the Panther commercial license, 2,495 euro. This is including all the tools, and the Panther Cub version, which is the entry-level version with which can be later upgraded to Panther commercial any point in time. And in here you can get it half of the price. Both are perpetual licenses, and you can users are welcome to any moment do the upgrade whenever they feel they need, or if they don't, they are welcome to keep using Panther Cub. We can provide you the list of the. You can see in our web page the entire list of the tools available on both versions, and with a trial you are able to evaluate, for instance, on the gem tools which ones are in Panther, which ones are in Panther Cub. So you will find here all the different tool set lists, so you can see exactly the differences. To
Perfect.
download, you are also very welcome to just to download in our web page. So this is the idea.
Nice. Also, people ask if you can run Panther as a Rhino plugin, not with a custom skin, but with
Yes.
just loading the toolbars on Rhino.
Yes, that was something we want to make sure you can. I also forgot to mention, we have Panther available on both Rhino and the Panther UI. So you will find this, the workflow is exactly the same. You see this, the side panel we use, it will use the Rhino side panel, and you just load the Panther toolbar. So if you are already familiar with Rhino interface, you are welcome to keep using it and just load Panther as an extra tool set.
Okay. And then there were some questions about manufacturing, about 3D printing. People ask, how do you export your model for 3D printing? I guess you just create an STL file, right?
Correct.
You have also tools to check that you have a close VREP, or are there regular Rhino tools?
Yeah, we are using all the regular Rhino tools for manufacturing, all the mesh repair, all the mesh tools, which are quite standard. I would say probably most part of the people nowadays have already a 3D printer with a I would say most part of them are already included the mesh repair in case it's needed support, in case it's not. We are mainly focused now on modeling tools. I really believe it's what the market needs most, and the manufacturing actually, I think it's
Yeah,
been
there are
available
other
more
tools
and more.
There
And
are
more
other
with
tools for fixing STL files or preparing them for printing in case you are doing massive printings, etc. Also, people ask where to find a 3D printing service, or maybe also a lost wax service. I told them to visit Shapeways, iMaterialize, or 3D Hubs. They ask specifically in Barcelona. Well, if they contact us, we will send them a list, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's easy for us to provide that information. I would always recommend to probably do that service locally. You will have a better price. Then you don't need to print models nowadays from one continent to another. You can do it if you are not doing it yourself. You can do it in your own city because it's quite popular. It's really easy to
also, one user asks if those 3D printing services need to own or to use Panther as well.
Not at all. Actually, you know that if they use Panther, the advantage is that they will be able to open the file, edit. Let's say that you want to change the thickness of the model, some detail. That's the advantage of having Panther. If not, they can have just a regular STL file, or if they only have Rhino, they can open the 3DM file. If they don't have Panther, the only thing they won't be able to do is to edit and access the history to adjust any detail.
Nice. Also, what else? Yeah, they were also asking us, Grasshopper uses only one CPU, that there might be some operations that are slow, well, depending on your CPU. And also I answered already that there are many multi-threaded components as well. But well, we saw that the PAVE operations and Booleans were pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, so I will answer this question. Some operations are taking advantage of multi-threading computing, but not all of them. The same thing happened with Grasshopper. So there are some things that are computed in multi-thread, and there are because some limitations of of the technology that we use, we cannot use it. But there are a lot that yes, and we are converting more and more operations to multi-threading.
And I think it's also good to mention in this latest update, we started computing all the operations in background. So yeah. For instance, when you are making complex operations, it's always depending on the model. If you are doing a very complex model, whatever is your computer, it will take time to process. So even so, we compute in background, which allow you to keep accessing the model, the 3D, to check your file, to keep doing things while it's computing in background. So it's also something we have been improving with all the updates. This is something also we released last week, one update for that, and yesterday we released another update. So Panther users will see that we keep updating and improving the software with taking attention to all the details and feedback from our users.
Nice. This is a very interesting question indeed. Is there or do you plan to have a Rhino or Grasshopper player that is for definitions or macros or scripts? I don't know if you're aware that we released recently a Grasshopper player for in Rhino 7. Have you seen that?
No, the Grasshopper player, I imagine what is, but if you can describe, I think it will be better.
Well, then I think we can talk about that later, because if we need to this, well, actually you can just kind of, instead of loading a definition on the Grasshopper canvas, you can kind of compact it as a macro or as a script, so that people that don't know about Grasshopper just load it, but they don't see the Grasshopper interface, and they are just guided through the command area, same as if it was a Rhino command.
Yeah.
And this opens really cool. Many possibilities.
Exactly. It will probably
also
allow
to share, yeah, in order to share definitions or so.
Yep.
You can share this with people that have no idea about Grasshopper.
That's true. That's true. And actually, if that it's already done, like I didn't got a chance to see, it should be already compatible with the plugin. So even so, we will check it, because it sounds a great thing to explore.
Patrick Abdel says the pavé is incredible. I'm very happy to have purchased the product.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback, Patrick. I believe it's the Italian user that we have been in contact, and I've been following the work he has been sharing on social media. I'm really happy he's enjoying the software. You are very welcome, Patrick. Thanks for attending the webinar today.
And Philippe Pillar says he has sold already like 60 copies in a couple of months in France.
We are very happy because, as many people know, France is the land for many jewelry brands, high-end jewelry brands, and we are quite happy with that, knowing that many of the most popular worldwide jewelry brands are already using Panther, and we are having great feedback, which make us be confident we are on the right track. So we also want to appreciate Cadlink, our partners in France, and the perfect assistance both in train as in sales. Really very recommendable.
And I think he has also organized some webinars in French, right? For the
correct. He's organizing both Panther as well as Rhino 7 webinars in French every week. So I think he combines every 2 weeks from Panther and every 2 weeks from Rhino. So it's really, really recommendable.
Joan Codina, this is a more general question, asks if you import a 3DM made in Rhino, can you render it in Cycles? The answer is yes, because Cycles is integrated in Rhino. I mean, in Rhino 6, there is one part, it was not finished yet. In Rhino 7, it will be completed. So, and it will be the inbuilt render. So yes. Correct. And this is more technical. Bluestone asks, can the diamonds be deleted on one side and then mirrored?
Yes, if I understand correctly, he is looking for make a mirror and then delete the original. If that's the question, it's no problem. It's okay. You can do it.
I guess if there is history, you need to
So
select the option to not update the children, right?
not at all. So
Or the parents.
there are some no, because we don't offer a typical tree, parametric tree. So the options is when you make the mirror, you can select the delete input as enable, or you can make a regular mirror and delete it from Rhino. So both options are okay.
Okay. More questions. There are many. Johannesburg.
Okay.
No, sorry. First, Brian Garcia. How is the layer management? Can I get a big gem map?
Okay, so the gems map as well as the report is something we are planning for the next update. At this moment, we have both the gem info as well as the metal report, but probably I know what people has been the feedback we have been having is that like a print sheet with all the different information about the gems, about the metal. This is something we will add on further updates. It's not something that you have already with one click prepared, but is for sure one of the next features. At this point, you have seen that, for instance, with the Pave tool, you can already show all the gem sizes and all that, but it's not yet the gems map he's asking for. But for sure, we will. It's something we will add.
Plan.
Definitely.
Nice. Another question now by Johannesburg. Is semi-automatic Pave possible?
Yes, I believe. I'm not quite sure the semi-automatic. What probably is exactly the idea of that, but mainly the Pave you can just randomly place the gems, but I think a Pave always will need to adjust like manual adjustments. So we really think that those manual adjustments are really part of the tool. If you want just one click do the Pave, you can, but probably you don't get the same results, like so accurate gem placements as you will resize some gems, adjust some positions. I'm not quite sure if this is the question, but in general, that's our idea of the Pave.
So I'm not quite sure about the question neither, but if the question is if you can make some part with the Pave and after that add some gems manually with the gem tool or gems by curve or something like that, and get all these gems together and make an azure or something like that, the answer is yes. But I'm not sure if it's a question.
Okay. We are running out of time, so if I will, we will finish with some 2 or 3 more questions. But feel free to contact Pedro and Enric at any time. You can find their contact details on their website, because probably they also have a forum, etc. Because unfortunately we don't have time for all the questions. But let's finish with a couple more. So people ask also if it works with AMD graphic cards. The answer is yes, I guess, right? It's more an OpenGL thing than, but you need to take care about the driver. So right now, I guess you recommend NVIDIA better.
Yeah, we recommend, actually it's mainly because the most tested it's NVIDIA, but it should be working on any graphic card. I think if it is compatible with Rhino, should be compatible with Panther.
Mm-hmm. And okay, maybe to avoid any kind of confusion, does the software price include Rhino or is it additional cost?
It doesn't include Rhino. So
It doesn't.
Rhino must be purchased separately. Most part of the already CAD users are already using Rhino. So Rhino is the most popular software in jewelry industry for many years. If you are already using Rhino, remember it must be Rhino 6. Always, we are always running the latest version. If you have a previous version, you need to update to Rhino 6. Later, when Rhino 7 comes, we will be on Rhino 7. Remember, if you acquire Panther today, as Rhino 7 is already beta version, you can, we already have the plans. It will be a short-term release, the public release for Rhino 7. All Panther users will have a free upgrade, which means that they will be able to choose by then if they want to move to 7 or if they want to keep still with 6. So we are welcoming all Rhino users to keep with our plugin.
Okay. So the same lenses will work if for Rhino Panther for Rhino 6 and for Rhino 7. So it's the same license.
Mm-hmm. Then people ask also how it compares to other tools like Matrix Walls, etc. I would answer that it's best that you download the evaluation version of those products on Panther and check yourself, because we don't have time here for the difference, and every product is different. There are different also prices, uses. The key differentiator about Panther is that it uses all the power of Grasshopper. Leo Elsa Salinas also asks if it's, as he works more with rings rather than with pendants, if you can add some videos, some video tutorials about rings on your website.
Yeah.
I hope you will, right?
Yes, and actually, I want to welcome Leo because we know him from many years. I really want to welcome him to check our YouTube page. We have a lot of rings. Actually, today we were saying we have done so many rings. Let's do something different. So we didn't made a ring today. We made a pendant, but I welcome to visit our YouTube channel. We have most part are rings, and I really hope he can download the trial version, because I'm quite sure he will enjoy it very much.
Okay. And the last of the questions, sorry, because we are running out of time. Is there any educational license?
Yes, we have an educational license. So it's available for students, which can acquire. Just email us to sales@panther3d.com and we will provide you all the details.
Perfect. Okay, so it was a great presentation. We learned a lot, and we had up to 240 concurrent viewers. So this is the record so far. Remember, to all the people that maybe joined it once it had started already, that this is being recorded. So just after it finishes, the complete session is available on this same link. And for the questions we didn't have time to answer, contact Pedro and Enric directly. And again, many thanks to the audience. See you in next week or in 2 weeks. We will announce soon more exciting food4Rhino webinars. So have a nice evening and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.